Hello, and welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This podcast is brought to you by dentalwebcontent.com and New Patients Incorporated. I'm Howie Horrocks, the founder of New Patients Incorporated. Along with me once again is my friend and partner and the president of New Patients Incorporated, Mark Dilatush. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast. We've got an interesting topic today. I think, Mark, we're going to discuss the virtues and attributes of online and offline marketing and why you really can't do much for the long run without both of them. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, huh?
It is well, some people like peanut butter sandwiches, I guess. And some people like jelly sandwiches. But I think the majority of people get the greatest benefit of having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Absolutely.
Right. So here's and we get this question constantly. And in our work, when we're allocating budget resources. So let's just use an example, Howie. Let's go through a pretty common example. Dental practice is doing, I don't know, $900,000 a year. Wants to get to 1.1 million. Has a website. We can debate whether it's a good one or not, but let's just say they have a website. They have reasonable positioning for SEO. They're not really doing anything but online. Maybe they have a PPC campaign that's a year or two old. So that's very common. They come to us and they say, well, something's broke because it's not doing what it used to do.
I'm not getting all of my patients from my online activities. What's wrong?
Right. So we have to kind of slow them down a little bit and say, whoa, wait, hold on a second. Virtually every successful online business that you've ever heard of. Think about that for a second. That's a pretty tall claim, right? So, geez, Mark, that's a pretty bold statement. Every successful online company I know, like little companies like Amazon.
Oh, how about Google?
And Google and Yahoo and let's go with monster.com and match.com, even Facebook, right?
Yeah, what do they all have in common?
They all got to you initially offline.
Yep.
Every one of those companies initially interested you in their online product or their online property offline. You probably saw it on TV. You might have heard it on the radio. Seen it in print, maybe something was mailed to you, whatever. Doesn't matter.
I still get Google mailings.
Right. Right. So these companies, these large companies the size that you want to grow to, these companies got it a long time ago. They understood that their online properties would generate their own traffic organically when somebody searched for the services they were offering. But they also realized that they can drive online traffic or they can drive offline traffic either to the phone directly without going to their website or directly to their website from which they can do business there. So when a dentist comes to us and says, I have a $900,000 practice and I have, what I think is a nice website and it looks like it's coming up on the first page of Google. And when I do a search and, I have, a PPC campaign for implants and Invisalign, and it's just not working like it used to. This is becoming more and more and more and more. We're hearing this story, I'm not going to say constantly, but I'm going to say a lot more this year than we did last year. So I think it's best for everybody to analyze first, why are we getting more of these inquiries? Well, reason number one is that you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. You never want to put all your marketing budget just into online. That is the first mistake that was made. The second mistake is I'm not saying that PPC ads are a mistake. We do them. We manage PPC campaigns. Obviously, we don't think they're a mistake when used properly. But when you do PPC, you almost have, when you do pay-per, for the people out there who are wondering what the heck PPC is short for pay-per-click, where you pay Google or you pay Facebook or whatever to distribute your message when people search for it, or directly, in the case of Facebook, directly onto the timeline of people immediately surrounding your practice. When you pay for that, you almost have to promote one single element of your practice because you don't have enough room to promote more than one. So what happens is the doctor over-allocates the majority of their advertising dollars for a very finite market, a share of the market, like implants, for instance. That's a classic example. Implants, or Invisalign is another classic example. So if you take 50% of your ad budget and you only promote implants and Invisalign, and you do that consistently in any U.S. market, it doesn't matter what market it is. If you do that consistently, in about 12 to 18 months, you're going to see the top of that bell curve and you're going to come sliding down to a crashing halt. Or if you're successful at it, this is the best case scenario actually, if you're successful at it, other dentists around you are going to start doing the same thing, driving the per click price up. The more competition there is in a PPC campaign, the higher your costs. So as your costs go up and your results go down, you end up looking at everything at the end of the year and then calling New Patients Incorporated.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Okay. That's exactly how it all happens. It's just
I mean, for that kind of a medium, it looks bleak, hey, your expenses are going to go up if you succeed.
Right. So,
and then you're going to come crashing down. Well, that's a bummer.
That is a bummer. So now there's ways to mitigate this, obviously, because again, we're not down on PPC campaigns. We're certainly not down on the internet. We have an enormous internet department and like a sub department within that for PPC campaigns. And we manage them actively today. So here's the point. The point is that you never want to put the majority of your marketing budget into one or two little niches. All right. You really want to put the majority of your marketing budget to where the consumer is. And the consumer, believe it or not, is still in family dentistry. The consumer never left. Dentists left. Okay.
Right.
But the consumer didn't leave. Okay. The consumer is still sitting there going, you know what I want? I just want a really nice local dental practice that I can trust, that I can bring my whole family to, whether it's my children who are 6 and 11, myself, or even my husband when he stops whining about his the fear of pain of going to the dentist, or even my mom and my dad. One of them has dentures and one of them needs dentures. I just want one place to go where I can, conveniently schedule my appointments, someone I can definitely trust, and someone I can relate to. That's what I want. And you know what? That hasn't changed in the last 30 years.
Right. We noticed this a long time ago, and we had a whole separate podcast about this, but we've known about it for years. We call it the niche trap.
Right.
Where, and now the niche trap has basically moved online. So if all you're promoting is implants and Invisalign, for example, or sedation dentistry or whatever, that's all that your target market is going to think that you do, or you're limited to that, or you only want those kind of cases, and you're ignoring that vast and deep family market. Right.
And normally the doctor will call and say, hey, I'm doing a PPC campaigns for whatever. Let's say Invisalign and implants. And the question is always, well, are you getting enough implant and Invisalign cases? The answer is almost always, yeah, I'm doing my fair share, but the rest of my practice is tanking.
Right.
Well, that's because you're not promoting it. Okay. You're only promoting Invisalign, right, and implants. So obviously the solution is to blend and orchestrate and have a message for family, and then complement the message with family with a portion of your budget. For instance, and before this podcast, we went and looked, and our clients that do PPC campaigns spend no more than 25% of their annual budget on PPC. Now, if you talk to these dentists that keep calling here, it's like 75, 80, 90% of their total budget is going into PPC campaigns. So I think what happened over the years is because you can log on to Google and for a half hour, you can take a course on doing your own Google campaign, right? So it's easy, right? So dentists were logging on and they were, I can do this. And they set up their ad and they set up their keywords and their key phrases and they put their budget in and they watched it, they watched their analytics and they tinker and tinker and tinker and tinker. And pretty soon they lose sight of what they're really trying to accomplish until they, again, they call New Patients Incorporated. Hey, I'm getting my fair share of Invisalign and implant cases, but the rest of my practice is drying up. How can you help me? And the answer is reallocate what you're overspending on implants and Invisalign and get that message back in the hands of the local consumers to drive family patients. Use the additional revenue as things turn around, and you can invest more money in PPC if you want. If you want to do more of the fun stuff, or maybe even branch out into sleep apnea or sedation or some other niche, right? One thing we know for sure with PPC is that the more of these niches you promote, the longer the bell curve is for the investment. It's very similar to radio. Like when we promote dentistry on radio for dentists, we never have one script. We always have like 5 or 6, and we rotate them in throughout the airtime so that they don't experience the sharp bell curve down.
Right. And the reason for that is that you can't tell the practice's whole story in one 60-second spot. You can't even tell it in 5, but you can tell more about the practice with a rotating 5 rotating topics all throughout the ad buy, and this avoids placing you into that niche trap that we talked about.
Right. And there's other reasons too, like so specifically for implants are difficult in that you almost have to, like, in order to create a PPC campaign for dental implants, you almost have to be diagnosed and understand the benefit of dental implants before you would type it into your Google search screen.
Yeah.
The percentage of people in the United States who have no clue what a dental implant is far greater than those who do. Okay. So I'm not saying it doesn't work, because clearly it works, right? And clearly a lot of dentists are doing it, but all they're doing is driving up their bid for the click. And the conversion, it's harder than you think. Maybe that's how I should put it. It's more difficult than you think to create a consistent, producing, effective PPC campaign on one subject. The more subjects you add, the longer your bell curve will be. And if you have 5 or 6 of those subjects, let's say an average bell curve for a subject is, let's say, 6 months. Well, if you promote implants for 12 months, then months 7 through 12, you spent either the same or more amount of money for less of a result. That's the back end of the bell curve. But at 6 months, if you switched it over to Invisalign, and then 6 months later switched it over to a sedation, and then 6 months later switched it over to cosmetic dentures, and then 6 months later, you guys get the idea. Okay, you basically you never hit the back end of the bell curve. You just have the beginning of each bell curve as each one grows. You can even do these simultaneously. That's why most of the time you might be better off with a professional handling either your Google PPC campaigns or Facebook. They're more PPI campaigns, pay-per impression campaigns with Facebook. Anyway, the bottom line is that too many of you are way too far allocated into online. You're ignoring offline, and inevitably you're going to hit that result. You're going to hit that bottom, and then maybe you'll call, or you'll need to change direction. We can tell you where you need to go back to offline. Just like Google, just like Yahoo, just like Facebook, just like every other successful website company ever in the history of ever. And they're still doing it. They were on the Super Bowl in their commercials. They're driving online traffic via offline promotion.
Right, and it just makes sense because we've been seeing this for years. Whenever we say, for example, we launch a mail campaign for a client, and what happens to the hits to their website during that campaign? Well, they go up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's in some cases triple. Right.
They're being driven from the offline promotion to the person's website, the dentist's website, and it's a direct correlation. We see it all the time.
Yeah. Now, some of the things that you can do is to, just to kind of control yourselves a little bit, is that remember, I don't know how many podcasts ago, probably 30 or 40 podcasts ago, we talked about budgeting. And I believe in that budgeting podcast, we talked about budget allocation. And I believe in that podcast, we mentioned that, when you figure out your total annual budget, you multiply your previous 12-month revenues times 5%. Use that as a goal. So let's go back to our scenario. Doctor's doing $900,000 a year. Multiply that times 45%. You end up with $45K. The doctor's got $45K to spend next year on marketing. What you don't do is put $45K into online. What you would do is maybe take 10% of that, go internal, and then split the remainder 50-50. You could do that. Now remember, you have a website that needs to be good. You have SEO that needs to be continual as Google changes their algorithms. You may want a review and reputation management piece of your online strategy. You may want online scheduling as part of your online strategy. You may want to dabble into social media and keep your social media properties up to date as part of your online strategy. And then complement everything with the right offline promotion to drive targeted offline local consumers either to your phone or to the website or both. That's what you would need to do to fix the problem. Because when doctors call us with this problem, I'm not going to say we do all of that with every one of them, but I'm going to say that's pretty common. That's a pretty common recipe for how we take those doctors who have gone way too far and balanced. All we're doing is rebalancing them. They went too far left, and we're just balancing them and bringing them back to center.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So if any of you, couple of announcements. If any of you are on Facebook and you would like to join the discussion, we have a new group. It's called Dental Marketing Mastery Community. There's actually quite a few people there now, almost 300, I guess. Conversations are happening. We have downloads there. We have podcasts there. We have access to all of our podcast properties, our book download. Everything's there.
Our blog.
Yeah, everything.
Access.
Yeah, and actually, I'd say at least 8 or 10 of our team is there to answer any questions you might have about anything, any kind of marketing that you're doing. Right now, we had a discussion about internal marketing, referrals, when to ask, when not to ask, and how to incentivize without, feeling schmarmy about it. And that was the last podcast we did, I think, Howie. That was the that was the social versus transactional relationship podcast that we did. So there's all kinds of conversations going on. Again, it's Dental Marketing Mastery Community. Just look for us on Facebook and ask to join, and I'm sure we'll get you right in.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, I guess that about wraps up this one. Mark?
Yeah. It's starting to be spring here.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to be in the 80s here in Vegas by Friday. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, thank you all for listening in, and we will see you again soon on our next podcast. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed our podcast today. You can find more podcasts on our YouTube channel, on Stitcher, and iTunes. Also on our websites, dentalwebcontent.com and newpatientsinc.com.